Today we're going to be looking at adding and subtracting fractions. So we have this fraction 3/5. So this top number, we call that our numerator. And the bottom number is our denominator. So to add or subtract fractions with the same denominator, we add or subtract the numerator, and then we keep the denominator. Let's look at some problems. Look at number 1. We have 10/16 minus 7/16. So we're going to subtract the numerator, so 10 minus 7 is 3. Now we keep the denominator of 16. The next thing we do is look at our answer. Can we simplify this anymore? Is there a number that divides into 3 and 16 evenly? There is not, so 3/16 is our answer. Number 2, -1/6 plus 5/6. We're going to add our numerator. So -1 plus 5 is 4. We keep our denominator of 6. Now we simplify. 4, 6. So what divides into 4 and 6 evenly? That is 2. We can divide both by 2, and we get 2/3. We always want to simplify. Let's look at number 3. We have 2/15 minus 7/15. So we are going to subtract. 2 minus 7 is -5. And we keep the denominator of 15. Can we simplify this? What number divides into -5 and 15 evenly? That would be 5. So we get -1/3. Okay, number 4, we have 1/12 minus -7/12. Minus a negative. We have to change that to addition there. So we're going to have 1/12 plus 7/12. So 1 plus 7 is 8. Keep the denominator of 12. Now we have to simplify. What number goes into both 8 and 12? That would be 4. So then we get 2/3. We are not always going to have like denominators. So let's look at when we have unlike denominators. So we have 2/3 plus 1/6. We look at the denominator, and is there a way that you can make both of these numbers look like each other? So 3, is there a way to make 3 into 6 by multiplication? There is. We can multiply by 2. So 2 times 3 gives us 6. But if we do it on the bottom, we have to do it to the top. So we could rewrite this as 4/6 plus 1/6. Now we have common denominators. So to add or subtract fractions with different denominators, we begin by finding the common denominator and rewriting the fractions with the same denominator. So we find the common denominator by multiplying. So let's look at some examples. We have 5/12 plus 1/3. Since 3 is smaller than 12, is there a way we can get 3 to equal 12 by multiplication? We can. We can multiply this whole thing by 4. As 4 times 3 gives us our 12. So we still have 5/12, and we're adding it to 4 times 1 is 4. 12. Now we have common denominator, so now we can add. So 5 plus 4 is 9. Keep our denominator of 12. Now, can we simplify this at all? Is there a number that divides both into 9 and 12? That is 3. So when we divide it and simplify it, we get 3/4. Let's look at number 2. We have 6 and 9. Is there a way we can make 6 and multiply it by something to give us 9? There's not. So now we have to think of what number both goes into. What number does 6 and 9 both go into? And that would be 18. So we're going to have a common denominator of 18. So what do we have to multiply 6 by to get to 18? That would be 3. So we're going to multiply this first fraction by 3. So 3 times 5 gives us 15. But we cannot forget that negative sign to bring it down. Now, what times 9 gives you 18? That would be 2. So we have to multiply 7 times 2, and that gives us 14. Now we can combine these two fractions by subtracting. So negative 15 minus 14 gives us negative 29. We keep the denominator of 18. Let's look at number 3. 3/10 minus 4/5. We do not have common denominators. So let's look at the smaller number. We have 5. Can we turn 5 into 10 by multiplication? We can if we multiply everything by 2. We have our first fraction that stays the same. 4 times 2 is 8, and 5 times 2 is 10. So now we have common denominators. So now we can subtract. 3 minus 8 is negative 5. We have our denominator. Now we simplify. What goes into both 5 and 10? 5 does. So when we simplify, we get negative 1/2. Let's look at number 4. We have negative 2/3 plus 1/4. What number can 3 and 4 both go into? 12. So we need to turn our two fractions into a fraction with a common denominator of 12. So 3 times what gives you 12? That would be 4. So 4 times negative 2 is negative 8. And now what times 4 gives you 12? And that would be 3. So 3 times 1 is 3. And now let's combine. Negative 8 plus 3 gives us negative 5. Keep our denominator. Can we simplify this at all? We cannot. So negative 5/12 is our answer. Let's look at number 5. We have negative 1/4 plus 1/8. We do not have common denominator, so we need to change this 4. The 4 we can multiply by 2 to get to 8. So we're going to have a common denominator of 8 now. So 2 times negative 1 is negative 2. And we're going to add it to 1/8. Negative 2 plus 1 gives us negative 1. And we keep our denominator of 8. Can this be simplified? It cannot. So negative 1/8 is our final answer. The last one, we have negative 3/4 minus 1/3. What would our common denominator here be? Good, it would be 12. So we have to change these fractions with a common denominator of 12. So 4 times what gives you 12? 3. So now let's multiply. 3 times -3 is -9. We're subtracting these two fractions. 3 times what gives you 12? And that would be 4. So 1 times 4 is 4. Let's combine them now. So we're going to subtract -9 minus 4 is -13. Keep our denominator of 12, and that is our answer. The last thing we're going to look at today is mixed numbers versus improper fractions. So a proper fraction is a fraction that is less than 1. The key here is the numerator is going to be smaller than the denominator. Some examples is 2/3. The denominator is smaller than the numerator. 9/12 is another example. Or one last example, -3/4. Now, an improper fraction is a fraction that is greater than 1. So the key here is the numerator is going to be larger than the denominator. So we could have 9/5 or 7/2. So that's proper versus improper. A mixed number is going to be a combination of a whole number and a proper fraction. So mixed numbers can be turned into improper fractions. So an example is 5 2/5. We have a whole number and we have a proper fraction. Another example is 3/2. Same thing, we have a whole number and a proper fraction. So let's look at changing a mixed number into an improper fraction. So to do this, there is a trick. We take the whole number and we multiply it by the denominator, and then take that answer and add it with our numerator. So 2 times 5 is 10 plus 3 is 13. And then we keep our denominator of 5. So let's look here. 1 times 8 is 8. Then we add 7. So 8 plus 7 is 15. Keep the denominator of 8. Next one, 3 times 10 is 30, plus 7 is 37. Keep the denominator of 10. The last one, we're going to do 3 times 9, that's 27, plus 5 gives us 32. Keep the denominator of 9. So that is adding and subtracting fractions. So please reach out if you have any questions.